Welcome to OLC 4.0. This is term 2B. We are on class 28, assignment 38, which is our resume, and looking at adverbial clauses. Today is June 4th, 2025, and this is Jillian Percy. Here are, as always, all the ways to contact us. The studio number is 1-800-465-7144. Keep in mind, if you call me, that means while I'm on the air, you will also be on the air. If you want to talk to me when I am not on the air, the office number is 1-800-667-3703, extension 2211. There is only somebody answering the phones till 4:30, okay? Email is jillian.percy@nnec.on.ca. I also have a secondary email, jillian.percy@nnecschools.org. That is the one that people generally use when they are sharing documents with me through Google Docs. My Facebook is capital G, capital P-E-R-C-Y, space, capital W-A-H-S-A. If you try to reach out to me there, please include a message along with your friend request, letting me know what class you're in and what your full name is, right? Because the first thing I always do is check to try and find you. But if I don't know your real name, that can be really hard for me. There are 2 different YouTube channels that you can watch the pre-recorded classes on. Well, I mean, it's live right now, but it'll be recorded later. There's the school channel, which is called the Wausau Distance Education Center. Now, the thing is, this course already got taught once this year, way back at the very beginning in September. So it does not get put up there again. It is, however, on my G. Percy Wausau YouTube channel. So I have the playlist from September, October, and I also have the playlist that we're doing right now. There's not really a significant difference between the two, but just so you know, it is there. Okay. Gosh, I have changed this so many times, and every time I do, for some reason, when I change this from Google Docs to PowerPoint, it always messes up the numbering. I don't know why. So frustrating. So there are multiple ways to hand in assignments. You can fax it to me, 1-800-463-7852. That's if you're in Ontario, or 1-877-990-2023. That is if you are anywhere else in Canada. You can also give it to the DEC at the Learning Center and ask them to scan it and send it to studentwork@nnec.on.ca. Hang on to your originals, you will need them later on. You can email it to studentwork@nnec.on.ca with the assignment done as an attachment. That's really common if people are doing all their assignments on the computer. As mentioned before, you can also share documents with me through Google Docs. When you do that, make sure to include me as somebody who can view or edit your work. I will definitely not edit your work without your permission. I just need to be able to look at it. If you forget to add those, I can't actually see anything. It'll just be a dead link. I can also hand assignments in by photograph through Facebook or email. When you do that, make sure the photograph is really crisp and clear. And then don't just put it in the body of your mail. Instead, send it as an attachment. The other thing you can do, and it works a little bit better than taking a photograph, is you use your phone as a scanner. That you can download a scanner app and do that. I'm going to show you a quick little poster here. This one is based on Adobe Scan, which is what I use. It's free. It's pretty reliable. Install it on your phone. Then you would open it up, and just like taking a photograph, you'd hold it over your assignment and snap a picture. There's these little blue dots in the corners that you can use to line up to make sure you've got all of your document in the picture. And then you can also play with the borders, and you just keep on doing that over and over until you have all your assignment pages in. Then you'd hit continue. At that point, it'll let you preview. You can order the pages differently if you need to, crop them. I think you can retake pictures as well. And then you're going to save your PDF and give it a name. Usually I give it the course name plus the assignment name, like OLC 4.0 assignment number 3. And then I save it, either in your Google Drive, in your Dropbox, wherever you save things. Then write me a little email and attach it as an attachment. Okay, we are on week 8 of this 9-week course. That means that next week is the last week for this course. The last day we can accept assignments is June 12th. June 13th is reserved for handing in exams, and we do not have an exam in this course. What it does have is what's called a culminating activity, kind of like a final project that will take between 5 to 10 hours to complete, depending on how quickly you write. Do not attempt to leave this assignment to the last day, as it will be very difficult to complete, especially if you work full-time or are taking care of young children all day. If you plan to finish this course before the summer, please contact me immediately and ask me for the culminating activity so you have enough time to work on it. It's worth 20% of your overall grade. It can easily raise your mark from a D to a B. If you are a potential grad and this is your last course, please contact me immediately so we can talk about your workload. That's assuming that we haven't talked already. I try really hard to keep in touch with people, but sometimes people finish a few courses quicker than we thought, and all of a sudden they're potential grad. Keep in mind, I have over 200 students at this point, and it takes me a long time to mark a course. If you save everything until the last day, I will never be able to get it finished in time for grad. Please, as you complete things once a week, hand me in your stuff so I can keep up to date with your marking, okay? Now, some of you may be running so far behind that you're like, you know what, I'm not going to get finished for grad, but I could do this over the summertime. Awesome. We run this course over the summertime. There aren't any live classes, but you can still watch the recorded classes, and I will still be the one doing the marking, okay? I won't be here at the office, but you can easily email me and I will check that. I won't suggest Facebook in the summertime. I will try to check it, but people are used to people responding instantly on Facebook, and I won't be sitting by the phone because I'm technically on vacation. If you are planning to do the summer term, let me know or let the office know. The other thing you can do is you can go to our Facebook site, and there's a little WASA registration form. That one that's there right now is for summertime. So you can click on it, fill it in, send it in to us, and then we know that you're going to be here for the summertime. It just kind of gives me a heads up of who I should be looking for over the summertime, okay? Ooh, my apologies. After I complete this class and these assignments, here are the learning goals that you should be able to do. Correctly write sentences using adjective and adverb clauses. Identify the topic, the audience, the purpose for writing, and the requirements of the particular writing form. Use pre-writing strategies to generate ideas for writing. Use appropriate strategies to organize ideas and information for writing, such as using headlines while writing a resume. Creating a first draft that includes the main and supporting details in the required format. Revising drafts in a variety of ways to ensure that the tone and level of language is appropriate to the audience and purpose, using appropriate strategies. As well, use appropriate strategies to edit written work and use your knowledge of how to write summaries, information paragraphs, and opinion pieces to produce informational writing for a variety of personal and school-related purposes. Sorry, that is a mouthful, but they want us to make sure that you guys know what we're working on. So first, we're going to tackle adjective and adverb clauses. So we talked yesterday about noun clauses, and today here we're talking about adjective and I think adverbial clauses as well. Adjective clauses are still a dependent clause, and they give you more information about the noun, right? So a noun clause replaced the noun. These ones give you more information. They allow you to combine two sentences into one by using relative pronouns: who, whom, whose, where, when, which, that, and why as connectors. In these cases, the pronouns are acting as the subject of the dependent clause. The clause must also have a verb, which can include those state of being verbs such as am, is, are, was, and were. These kinds of clauses generally come right after the noun they are describing instead of before the noun. So here's how those would sound. My friend who was sick borrowed my medicine. Now, who was sick couldn't stand all by itself, but it is acting as an adjective clause describing which friend. Which friend? The one who is sick. The experienced doctor, whom many people respect, is the new head of the department. Whose? I admire the new singer whose latest single just hit #1. We can also use that. I met a man that works at the new store. Which? The house which has just gone on sale is looking beautiful. Where? I have always wanted to visit the coast where my friend has a cabin by the ocean. And then when? The winter time, when it gets dark early, often triggers depression for people. Okay. Now, sometimes these clauses almost sound like they should have a comma like this. The wintertime, when it gets dark early, comma. It's almost like you're saying it in brackets, okay? I believe that is just fine. At the moment, I haven't gone into the whole details between when you would use those commas and when not. I'm going to leave it for right now. It's a pretty fussy little thing. Adverb clauses. Adverb clauses also must have a subject and a verb. And these ones will just act exactly like an adverb does, which means they can also modify a verb or another adverb or another adjective, just like an adverb can. Adverb clauses will answer the question how, why, when, where, to what extent, or with what conditions. Adverb clauses will start with a subordinating conjunction. Adverb clauses are a type of dependent clause and cannot stand alone as a sentence. They can be a way to create a complex sentence, but I don't think they necessarily always are, but I could be wrong about that one. We'll have to kind of look at this. So, quick review of common subordinating conjunctions. Keep in mind, subordinating conjunctions can sometimes be a phrase, like after is a one word, but you could also have as far as, okay? They're a little bit harder to memorize. That's why I keep on putting lists of them there, because there's only 7 coordinating conjunctions, but there's all sorts of subordinating conjunctions. Okay, so quick review: after, although, or as far as soon as if, as though, because, before, even if, even though, how, if only, in as much as, in case that, in order that, insofar as, in that, just as, lest, no matter what, now that, once, only if, provided that, rather than, since, so that, supposing that, than, that, though, till, until, unless, when, whenever, where, wherever, whether, while, and why. Okay, so here are some examples of how they might sound, okay? Explaining the manner, how they did something. He ran as fast as he could. How did he run? As fast as he could. Explain where something happens. I bring my phone wherever I go. Purpose. Vera bought Tom this gift because she thought he would like it. Time. After they set up the tent, they built a fire. Condition. David will be here at 2 o'clock if he gets the next train. Compare or contrast. Patrick can speak French as well as I can. And then concession. Although it's raining, it's still warm outside. If the adverbial clause comes at the front of a sentence, it's followed by a comma before we have the rest of the sentence. So even though he was broke, comma, Dan was determined to go out that weekend. After I get finished at work, comma, I am planning to go fishing with my friends. And the reason is because we've kind of shuffled it. Normally it goes at the end, and the adverbial clause here kind of ends up acting as sort of a bridge between the two small sentences. When we stick the bridge at the very beginning, we use the comma to let people know, hey, here's when the first sentence kind of ends, and here's the second sentence. Two simple sentences or clauses, right? When it comes at the end of the sentence, it normally doesn't need a comma, although I have seen people do it, especially with the word because. I told my mom to come over whenever she wanted to on Sunday, okay? Because it kind of flows a little better. People will recognize what's going on. Here, you're putting this funny kind of joining thing at the beginning where there's nothing to join. So you have to kind of punctuate it a little bit differently. How do you decide whether you want to put the adverbial clause at the front or at the back? Basically, it's up to the writer, okay? A lot of times, the writer might put it in the front when they really want to emphasize that part of the sentence, like, provided that you get your work done, I will take you shopping tonight. Unless my boss lets me have the day off, I won't be able to go on vacation. Right? Other times, it just seems to fit more naturally at the end of the sentence. We can set up the tent whenever we want to at the campsite. I have to cook dinner after work, no matter how tired I feel. So there isn't necessarily any rule, just kind of play around with it a bit and see which one you think. There is a little test here. I don't think we're really going to do it, but I'm going to show it to you just in case you want to practice yourself. Oh, and it's not letting me do that. Let's see. Nope. All right, Microsoft. I don't know why you're doing that, but here you go. Okay, I am not going to reread all these. Basically, we are working on our resume. We're going to have to do some pre-writing, some drafting, and some revising. And we're going to make sure we understand the topic, the audience, the purpose for writing, and the requirements for a resume, right? Every different format for writing has certain requirements. A resume is like that as well. Okay, some of the material that comes after the resume as extra reading, I am including in the beginning because it really seems to me like it makes way more sense at the beginning. Since you are now completing this grade 12 English course, the assumption is that you most likely will be graduating from high school soon. You may have been thinking about what you're going to do once you receive your Ontario Secondary School diploma. You may want to continue your education by attending college or university or some other sort of post-secondary training away from home. Keep in mind, a lot of communities also have Contact North, where they can take post-secondary at home. I recently heard about a community that lost Contact North. Keep in mind, if you go to the Ontario College site, there are always, these days, they didn't used to be, some programs that are offered almost completely online. So even if Contact North has disappeared in your community, you still can access post-secondary education, okay? You may want to just stay in your own community and do what you're doing, especially if you've got a great job or if you're raising your family. It's all up to you, okay? What you decide to do is going to depend on your interests, your needs, and your career. Now, they make a big deal here, I don't know why, is a career is used to cover related types of work, like hospitality, aviation, and education. An occupation refers to something more specific. So now I actually 100% disagree with them on this, but we will leave it for there. I don't think it actually matters, so we're going to leave it. This is an older diagram. I don't know if it's valid anymore because I don't know that we use print that much. We're not using DVDs. You're not getting videos in library. If you're trying to find information about jobs, the big things I would say, hang on a second. Okay. First of all, try and get some experience. A lot of places will take a volunteer or an intern, and that is the best way to decide whether you like it or don't like it. I know a lot of fellow students who were in the teaching program and started doing it, and within a month were like, oh my goodness, I hate this. There is no way I am going on. That's great. Better to know before you've spent a whole bunch of money on it, right? Print There is some print, although a lot of times these days it's on the computer, okay? There will be books about things, but there will also be websites. There are sometimes career-specific magazines. Like I know when I've been sitting at the airport, sometimes I've seen aviation magazines. I know there's teacher magazines. Those can be a good idea to read and keep up with ideas. Public libraries will have information. The other big thing I think besides getting experience is talking to different people, okay? It could be your teachers or counselors. Some of your friends or family might know somebody who's in the business. And then if you get a chance to talking to somebody who works in the occupation, like if you want to understand nursing better, try talking to a nurse or even a nursing student. You can also look up a nearby nursing program, see what they list as their courses, or what they suggest nurses need to know. Sometimes we have in our minds an idea of what that job is going to be like, and it can be very different than what we expected. So it's a good idea to talk to people. All right. Okay. This is a fairly new job search site. It's called Northwest Employment Works. I think it's I'm underneath Confederation College, but it's not directly, you don't have to be going to that college to use it, okay? They have a job bank. They have different programs and services to help people find work. It's a really useful site if you want to take a look at it. The big thing is that you can search for jobs in different regions. I think they have Dryden, Thunder Bay, I forget what the other ones are. You can also look for different types of work. Casual means like you get called in when someone else is sick. Full-time, that's obvious. Internship is normally an unpaid internship. Part-time, remote positions only. Student is usually work that is going to be evening or weekends because they're trying to leave the days open for students to go to school. Temporary or contract, like somebody's gone on mat leave and they're going to be away for 6 months. Training, I haven't seen those, but they could exist. And volunteer, right? Obviously only put volunteer if that's what you're really comfortable doing. All right. So here I clicked on one of the job links and got all the information about the job duties and requirements. This one was from Independent First Nations Alliance, and they're looking for an administrative assistant. This was last year. This isn't current, by the way. And here is a long list of all the things that person is going to be responsible for. And then requirements, what they want you to do. Completion of secondary school, high school, is an asset. Not a requirement, I point out. It's an asset. Additional education or training is an asset. In other words, it's a good thing to have, but it's not required. A minimum of 2 years working at admin. So in other words, they're saying doing other administration work is more important to us than having finished high school. Proficient in the use of MS Office, including Word, Excel, or Outlook. Driver's license G with a clear driving abstract and available reliable vehicle. Clear criminal record check. Okay, there's probably more. Take a look around, see what is available. They can also help you access job training if you've been laid off or if you've been unemployed for more than 6 months and are a low income household. And I'm sorry, I don't know what the current cutoff rate is for low income. Your best bet is to give them a phone call and to see what they can do for you. They've been in here before talking to us and they seem really, really helpful. So I really encourage you to reach out to them. Okay. They can also offer help with creating a resume if you're currently looking for work, not just trying to do your assignment, okay? They have things like access to computers, fax machine, and photocopier, job postings, labor market information, information on training and upgrading, help with devising a resume, information on Better Jobs Ontario and apprenticeship programs. Apprenticeship is like skilled trades. Workshops on a variety of employment-related topics, a daily newspaper in case you're looking at a newspaper for job ads, referral services to programs we offer where applicable for further employment supports. Okay, here's the actual assignment. That used to be assignment 37. That is changed to assignment 38. It's no longer 37. Your task will be to develop a chronological resume of your own using the template provided on the next page and based on the information provided above along with a sample. Note, if you already have a resume done, perhaps from an earlier course or just because you've already been looking for work, take a close look at it and revise it as necessary, especially if you haven't used it for a while, right? If you have something new that you can add onto it, like some new work experience, some new training, the template on the next page, when completed, will be a rough copy only. And then you revise and edit that and produce a final good copy, preferably on a computer. Okay, I know not everybody has access to it, but for resumes these days, it really is important to have the computer. Okay. It's important to show the employer that you're the best person for the job. Include all your qualifications and positive characteristics. The rough copy is worth 15 marks, and the final copy is also worth 15 marks. Okay, hang on. Your name, address, and contact information can either be centered at the top or it could be located on the left-hand margin. Do not put it on the right-hand margin because in English we read from left to right. That looks weird. Your objective is something specific that you're hoping for. I'll talk more about that in a minute. When you're listing your information in the education and the work experience sections, oop, my voice is going. Hang on a second, guys, sorry. You're listening to this later on. It's right in the middle of all those fires with all the smoke, so definitely affecting my voice. Okay, when you're listing information in the education and work experience sections, you always start with the most recent job or recent education first at the top and slowly work your way backwards. That's a big part of a chronological resume. List all skills you have. Make sure they're real skills. Don't just say organized if you know you're not organized, right? List two or three references, okay? A reference should be somebody who knows you pretty well. Usually I would say like they know you for at least a year and someone who can be relied upon to say something positive about you. High school teachers, former employers. Sorry, what happened here? Oh, I don't know what's going on here. I must have accidentally hit a button and moved something. Include the person's name, job title, address, telephone number. Try not to use family members or relatives as references if possible. Now, we live in the North, and I know a lot of people live in very small communities. If your uncle so-and-so happens to be your boss, that's fine, right? Because you know them in a work-related environment as well. They're just saying, don't use your mom as a reference, who's going to say, oh, well, of course you should hire my chickadee, right? Because obviously our moms and dads think that we're wonderful. It should be somebody who can talk about your work stuff. You could also put somebody there that you volunteered for, right? Like if you do a lot of fundraising and you're super helpful for running sports teams, you could mention that. If you do a lot of help with elders in your community, you could mention that to maybe whoever could give you a good reference for that. The crisis coordinator, maybe, depends on who kind of organizes those sort of things. So that is one other kind of possibility to think of. All right, here is an example. You can see up top, they put their name, their address, also their telephone number and their email, okay? Objective, to apply my skills in a community-based organization committed to the well-being of young people. Okay. To me, that means that they want to work with young people. Education, OSSD, Birch Island Distance Education Center, 2021, First Aid, CPR training, St. John Ambulance. Okay. One thing I would say for this, for the education, is I would normally put the beginning and the ending date. Hang on a second. So if you went to one high school the entire time, so you might have, 2020 to 2024, Sioux North. Because they want to know how long you took. They just do. If you've switched schools, if you're only at one school for 1 year, just kind of list them. Whatever is the most recent goes at the top. Oh, hang on a second. Sorry, things disappeared there. Work experience, tell when you worked. You don't have to go right down to the day, but usually we do month and year. What was your job title? Where was the address? And what are some activities you do there? Now, one of those things is sometimes people are kind of like, well, everybody knows what a youth counselor does. But truthfully, a youth counselor can do different things, right? A youth counselor here at Cedar Bay might be doing very different types of things than somebody who was working at the Camp of the Woods, or somebody who was a youth counselor in a mountainous area, right? They might be doing different jobs. Same things with a receptionist, right? Different companies may expect more or less of their receptionist. So you need to list what your job duties were. Skills, and then references they put available on request. That's pretty typical. I would normally just include a second page that has my references. Don't make them ask you, because what if you end up playing phone tag with them? Here's another one. This is kind of set up really lovely. This is set up using the Canva program. I don't remember if I talked about this. I don't think I talked about this yesterday. We'll talk about it a little bit more today. You're welcome to use Google Docs or Microsoft Word, but there's also a program called Canva that does some really beautiful formatting. And you can see here it has all our items. I think I might have played with this a little bit, but look how nice and professional that looks too, right? That's a nice resume to read. It's got lots of white space. Makes it easy on the eyes. Okay, I usually use some version of this rubric to mark things. I look that you've followed your resume formatting, that your resume shows your awareness of your audience, your purpose, and your tone, that your word choices show active verbs, consistent verb tense, and good description. Your rough copy meets the assignment criteria and is handwritten. Your good copy shows evidence of revisions in word choice, grammar, phrasing, etc. And your good copy has been edited for spelling, punctuation, and capitalization mistakes. We talked about this yesterday. A lot of times younger people kind of feel like spelling is not that important. And I understand why. We've really de-emphasized that in school. But a lot of bosses are older, and back in the day, spelling was considered crucial. And it really can cause sometimes people to kind of look down a little bit on your skills if you don't have things spelled correctly. So for your own sake, keep in mind that people who are hiring may be a good deal older than you, depending on your age, and they may have strict ideas about what they expect for spelling, okay? So objective. Now, this is one of those things that I feel like was more common several years ago. I do see it in some resumes. Sometimes these days I see something called a summary section instead. I'm including it here because it has been part of the assignment. And then you've got time to practice writing a good objective. And you can decide whether you really want to use it for your own job hunting use or not. Now, it's really important when you do the objective. Sometimes people will write things that have nothing to do with the employer. They'll be like, hey, I want to take care of my 2-year-old and pay the bills. Well, yeah, of course, right? That's why all of us are working, right? But that doesn't tell the employer any reason why you might be good for them to hire. So over here's a little meme, and the interviewer says, so why do you want this job? And the guy says, well, I've always felt passionately about not starving to death. Yes, but we have to find slightly more creative answers to give to people that are interviewing us. Usually we want to explain what's in it for them, right? Why would they want to hire me compared to anybody else? So here we've got my objective is to use my organizational and computer skills in an administrative assistant position. Okay, right away, the moment they finish seeing my name, they know what I'm looking for. I want an admin assistant position, and I feel that I'm good at organizing things and I've got good computer skills. Okay, perfect. Think about what type of skills you want or in which department. That's if it's a larger company, right? Like, I was trying to think of an example. Doing bookkeeping for a small nursery is different than doing bookkeeping in a Fortune 500 area, right? What type of job title? Now, again, job title is one of those things, sometimes different businesses will call the same job something different, right? Sales associate and sales manager sound pretty similar, but sales associate just means a salesman or woman, right? Sales manager means the people that are in charge of all the sales associates. So it's going to pay a lot more and have a lot more power in the company, normally. With what philosophy or attitude? Now, this is the kind of thing that's especially important in fields like health, education, or social services, where they're looking to hire people who have similar beliefs about how to approach clients. So if you're working in construction, you may not need to mention your philosophy. You might want to mention your hardworking attitude or your positive attitude, but it is more crucial in some of the social science kind of areas. So here's an example of two possible objectives. I am looking for full-time work as an administrative assistant in which I can use my office skills to help organize and manage communications, workflow, and customer service relationships. Okay, that's really clear. I am seeking full-time work as a childcare worker, which uses my ECE diploma and my 3 years of experience in early childhood education to provide outstanding programming and support to a preschool which promotes play-based education that values children's independence and individuality. Okay, now this is jargon in teacher code. That means I value kids having a chance to play rather than what might be called an academic program where we're forcing the kids to sit down and do a lot of paperwork. Okay, that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying philosophy, right? Because different schools have different philosophies. So I'm getting across what I'm looking for. Okay. Education section. Education can also include training, right? Sometimes I even just rename it education and training, or some people, if they've got a lot of education, might put us like a secondary category called additional training. Anything that you got a certificate for or any training process that you might have gone through that someone else can verify. First aid, lifeguarding, heavy machinery certification, suicide prevention, firefighting, Microsoft Excel, all those kind of things, you usually end up with some sort of certificate saying that you've completed the program, that you can prove that you've done it, right? If you're going to do a skills section, and I'm requiring it for this because it is pretty common. I personally don't like it. I think it's so easy to claim skills that you don't actually have. And I think people sometimes are writing things that are very vague. Okay. So for example, I wouldn't just write word processing. These days, almost anybody can do word processing. But I might use something more specific like excellent at using MS Word to create a variety of documents, such as letters, agendas, programs, posters, and business documents. That tells the person who's reading this that I know how to do all those kind of things, right? That's way more useful than just saying word processing. The other kind of thing you want to make sure is that it's skills that relate to the job. You might be the best Fortnite player in the universe, but unless you're getting a job with Epic, you probably don't want to mention that in your resume, okay? Second language skills can be very important. Skills with specific computer software programs or types of programs, like maybe you're really good at working with databases, even if you haven't worked with their specific database program. Web design skills or social media design skills, specific skilled trades, things like welding, construction, auto repair. Performance type skills such as dance, public speaking, singing, musical instruments. Again, normally only if it's relevant to jobs. Any office specific skills that would be useful. Filing, organizing, note-taking, keyboarding speed, and then any business specific skills that might be appropriate to the job you're applying for. Point of sale skills, merchandising, inventory, stocking, sales skills, all those kinds of things. Interests. We used to have an interests section. I no longer put it in because as far as I can see, it's just not used as often as it used to be. And it's way too easy to put something in there that is just not relevant to the job. So I've taken it out. Don't bother. Work experience. Normally here you'd want 3 to 4 point form sentences stating what you did at the job. Try to avoid passive language like responsible for filing, because that just says what you should have been doing, not that you actually did do. You might want something more like consistently filed all documents within the hour received, or you know what I mean, like something kind of very specific. Even if the skills seem really obvious, spelling it out for your potential employer is helpful. Generally, you're supposed to start with the verb, so it's the first thing they can see. So as a waitress, I seated customers. I took orders accurately, including substitutions. Suggest sold drinks, desserts, and specials. Operated point of sale machines. Bussed tables. Assembled salads and made drinks when needed. Now, in some places, you wouldn't do those things, right? Like if you were working at, say, well, Dairy King wouldn't have a waitress, but depending on this style, right? Some places have a separate person who busses. Some places the waitresses make the salad. Other places say the bartender does. You just never know. So that's why it's reasonable to put in what you've done, because every place is a little bit different. Just like with the cover letter, it's a good idea to show skills that you know how to do. So I kind of gave you some examples here, because sometimes when we're doing this, we kind of run a little bit dry. And I've organized them into office work skills, creative work skills, skilled trade, and leadership skills. I am not going to read them all. If you want to see them, you are welcome to just kind of pause the video and read them. Okay, there are 3 main types of resumes: chronological, functional, and hybrid. We are going to be doing the chronological one, okay? It's the one that's most accepted. I'm going to show you the other ones just so you're aware that they exist, but I'm also going to talk to you about the pros and cons and why I think you shouldn't use them, okay? Chronological, you always put the most recent experience at the top and you work your way backwards in skill, okay? They do work best for people that have had a lot of work experience. Any skills that you have are listed under each specific job. Now, one drawback to these type is if you took 5 years off because you were having children, it's going to stand out. It also assumes that your most recent job is the most relevant. But maybe you took a quick job at McDonald's just to pay the bills, but you really want to get back into office work. It can be awkward because the first thing they see is something that isn't really what you want to do. Okay, hang on a second. Functional resume is where they often list the skills first. Now, a lot of websites that I read said, don't do it. Employers hate it. Now, I think it kind of works here for one simple reason, which is this particular job seeker has some super specific skills in using computer programming languages. And I think those are probably pretty valuable. And so somebody might give him a look where they might not have. If for this particular guy, he doesn't have a whole lot of actual work experience. He was an intern and then he did some freelancing. So that's why he's chosen this. The thing is, whoever is reading this will be aware of those kind of things. I like that he included some specific projects and how he used his skills, okay? This is one to think about if you haven't done a lot of official work, but you have a lot of skills, okay? A lot of recruiters hate this. They feel like it's deliberately concealing information, which in some ways it is. Some people are very suspicious because they know that people will use it to cover gaps in their employment, hide their lack of experience, blah, blah, blah. Having said that, as long as you're upfront about those kind of things in your cover letter, I don't think it's a big problem. But I'm not a recruiter, so yeah. combination tries to kind of get the best of both worlds. It has a organization by chronological, but it also has a lot of skills categories. It's the kind of thing where if you have, like, say, 2 to 5 years of experience, it might be good. Also for people who have had experience doing very specific skills. So here, they've still got their skills first, but then they have listed their work history in order. Again, if you've got really strong skills, but not a lot of work history, I think this is a nice compromise myself. Now, the template that we have in our unit, I feel like it's a bit old-fashioned. I probably need to update it for next year. For one thing, it uses a font that used to be used all the time, but is not used these days. Times New Roman used to be the standard, but these days we use a very different one, okay? So I'm going to show you some other types of resumes that I want you to look at that look a little more modern and what we expect these days. Now, this one I grabbed just because I thought the 2-column thing was interesting, but in Canada, I'm not sure if it's actually illegal, but it's really discouraged to put your photo there because then it looks like you're trying to get hired based on your looks. And a lot of businesses will automatically reject these because they don't want to be accused of being sexist or being racist or being ageist. And keep in mind, you don't want to have it there because the person that's reading it could be racist or sexist or ageist, right? If they don't like young people, they don't want to see a picture of you looking 18. Don't put it in there. The exception would be if you're doing a job where your face is a primary part of the job, like acting, for example, or modeling, where how you look is kind of basically part of the job. Otherwise, I would avoid it. I would also avoid bold, fancy colors in your resume. A lot of times it's going to get photocopied and handed to more than one person, and they're not going to bother photocopying it in color most times. I also wouldn't use fancy or unusual papers if you're handing in a paper copy. Generally, when people do this, it's because they don't trust their training or their experience. Plain, boring, white copy paper is just fine. What software programs should you use for your resume? Anyone that you're comfortable with is fine. Microsoft Word is fine. Google Docs, which you have access to as a WASA student. Both of these have resume samples. The other one is Canva. And I will say I really like Canva. I use it more and more because it's got some great stuff out there. All right. So I am going to start walking you through some of this, okay? I can see by my time that I'm going to run out of time, so I'll probably have to finish walking you through some of the programs tomorrow, but I am going to kind of start you now. Let me see if it'll let me do it. Hang on a second. I know yesterday. Okay. Oh, all right. Hang on. All right, I'm going to head back. We did talk about Google Docs yesterday, so I'm going to come back to this later on. It's all the exact same stuff we used for our cover letter. You log into your account, you go to the grid, you click on it, you find the Google Docs, which is the little blue icon there, and then you open it up. When you open it up, there is at least one resume copy, and if you hit the template gallery, you'll probably get more. You are welcome to also start fresh with a completely blank page if you want to. I found one thing about using their document was if I wanted to add more spaces, it got a bit fiddly because of how they formatted it. What I would do is highlight the whole thing, save it, and then I dumped it into my own document. When I did that, it removed the formatting marks that made it hard to use. Okay. Yep. The Spearmint resume format, and then the blank document. Okay. Quickly talking margins. Normal margins are fine. Wide margins are also fine. I would avoid narrow margins because if it gets skewed at all in the photocopier, you might get part of your stuff cut off. Alignment. Resumes are often aligned on the left-hand side, but I have seen some that are centered. You will never align it to the right-hand side. It just looks very odd in English. Okay. On. You can set up your own formatting or change the formatting they've used. You can use bold letters to make things stand out, italics where it kind of slants over, Sometimes you might want your subheadings to be a little bit of a bigger font, or a different font even. Sometimes you might write it all in capital letters. Here's a little different font, or underline it, or several of those, right? All right, so I am actually going to very quickly, let me see if I can get this. Oh, why is it not? Okay. All right, here we go. Hang on a second. Eek. Oh, all right. Sorry. Sometimes these things are there. Uh-oh, he's cut me off. All right, I'll be back tomorrow and we'll finish up then. Bye.